I never thought the sound of an air horn would become the most important noise in my life. But here we are. It started 6 months ago, around 3 in the morning, when I was sitting on my apartment balcony trying to remember what it felt like to sleep through the night. I'd been doing that a lot lately, nursing cold coffee and watching the highway that runs past my street, counting headlights like other people count sheep. That's when I first heard it. 2 sharp blasts from a semi-truck's horn, perfectly timed as it passed the exit to my road. I barely noticed it that first time, just another sound in the symphony of late-night traffic. But then it happened again the next night. Same time, same place. 2 honks, clear and deliberate. My name's Marcus, and I've been living in this converted warehouse apartment for about a year now. It's one of those trendy industrial spaces with exposed brick and pipes running across the ceiling that the landlord charges way too much for. But I loved it because the balcony faces the highway, and there's something oddly comforting about watching the world move past you when you can't seem to move forward yourself. I'd been stuck for a while, if I'm being honest. 28 years old, working a job I didn't hate but didn't love, going through the motions of a life that looked fine on paper but felt hollow in practice. I'd broken up with someone about 8 months earlier, nothing dramatic, just 2 people realizing they were better at being lonely together than actually being together. Since then, I'd been existing in this weird liminal space, not quite sad enough to be depressed, but not happy enough to call it living. The honking became a thing I looked forward to, which probably says more about my mental state than I'd like to admit. Every night around 3, sometimes 3:15, I'd be out there, and that truck would pass, and those 2 honks would cut through the darkness. After about a week, I started wondering if it was the same driver, the same truck. The highway runs from the industrial ports up north all the way down to the distribution centers in the south, so it made sense that someone might have a regular route. I started paying closer attention, trying to catch details. The truck was a standard 18-wheeler, dark-colored, hard to tell exactly what shade in the sodium vapor light of the highway. But I began to recognize the pattern of its lights, the particular rumble of its engine. 2 weeks in, I did something that felt completely ridiculous even as I was doing it. I waved, just raised my hand as the truck approached, a small gesture that probably wasn't even visible from the highway. But those 2 honks came right on cue, and I swear the second one lasted just a fraction longer than usual. My heart did this stupid flutter thing, and I laughed at myself standing there in my pajama pants getting excited about a truck driver acknowledging my existence. But I was back the next night, and the night after that. It became our thing, this weird ritual between 2 strangers. I'd wave, the truck would honk twice, and for those few seconds, I felt connected to something, to someone. I started wondering about him because I'd decided it was definitely a him, though I had no real basis for that assumption. What was his story? Why was he always on the road at 3 in the morning? Did he have someone waiting for him somewhere? Or was he like me, just moving through space without any real destination? I created whole narratives in my head during those long nights. Maybe he was running from something. Maybe he was running toward something. Maybe he was just driving, because that's what he knew how to do. About a month into our silent communication, I upped the ante. I brought a flashlight out to the balcony, and when I saw his lights approaching, I flashed it twice. The response was immediate, 3 honks this time, and I felt this surge of something I hadn't felt in months. Joy, maybe, or just the simple pleasure of being seen. It sounds pathetic when I say it out loud, getting emotional over a truck driver I'd never met. But loneliness does weird things to you. It makes you find meaning in the smallest interactions, build entire relationships out of nothing but air and hope. My best friend Rachel noticed I was acting different. We'd been friends since college, and she had this annoying ability to read me like a book I'd accidentally left open on the table. We were having coffee at our usual spot, this hipster place that served oat milk before it was cool, and she just looked at me over her cappuccino and said, "Okay, what's going on with you? You've been weird lately, like good weird, but weird." I tried to brush it off, but she kept pushing, and eventually I told her about the truck driver. I expected her to laugh, to tell me I needed to get out more, maybe download a dating app like a normal person. Instead, She got this soft look on her face and said, "Marcus, that's actually kind of beautiful. Sad, but beautiful. You should try to meet him." The idea terrified me. What if he wasn't who I'd built him up to be in my head? What if he was just some guy who honked at a random building on his route and didn't think twice about it? What if I was projecting all my loneliness and longing onto someone who was just being friendly? But Rachel planted the seed, and once it was there, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I started planning. I could make a sign, hold it up so he could see it from the highway. But what would it say? "Hey, truck driver, want to meet the weird guy who waves at you every night?" That seemed like a good way to end up as a cautionary tale on a true crime podcast. 3 months into our nightly ritual, something changed. The truck didn't come. I waited until almost 4 in the morning, but the highway just kept flowing with its anonymous traffic, and those 2 specific honks never came. I felt this pit open up in my stomach, this sense of loss that was completely disproportionate to the situation. I didn't even know this person. But the next night, same thing. No truck, no honks. I started to spiral a little, wondering if something had happened to him. Truck driving is dangerous. Accidents happen, or maybe his route had changed. Maybe he'd quit. Maybe he'd just decided to stop honking at the weird guy on the balcony. A week passed, then 2. I kept going out there every night like some kind of vigil, but nothing. I felt stupid and sad and angry at myself for caring so much about something so insignificant. Rachel tried to cheer me up, suggested we go out, meet actual people in actual bars, but I wasn't interested. I'd gotten used to my little bubble of connection with the truck driver, and everything else felt too loud, too complicated. Then, on a random Thursday night, actually early Friday morning, I was out there more out of habit than hope. It was raining, one of those light drizzles that makes everything look like it's covered in static, and I was about to go back inside when I heard it. Those 2 honks, cutting through the rain and the darkness like they'd never stopped. I jumped up so fast I almost knocked over my coffee, waving frantically, and the truck honked again, 3 times, long and loud. I stood there in the rain, grinning like an idiot, feeling more alive than I had in weeks. But this time, something was different. The truck's brake lights came on. It was slowing down. My heart started pounding as I watched it take the exit to my road, the exit it had been passing for months. This was it. This was actually happening. I ran inside, suddenly very aware that I was wearing a ratty college t-shirt and sweatpants. My hair was a mess, and I probably smelled like coffee and insomnia. But there wasn't time to change. I grabbed my keys and phone and headed down to the street level, my hands shaking. The truck had pulled into the mostly empty parking lot of the warehouse. It looked bigger up close, more real. I could see someone moving in the cab, and then the door opened. He climbed down, and in the amber light of the parking lot, I got my first real look at him. He was tall, probably 6'2" or 6'3", with broad shoulders and these strong, capable hands. He had dark hair, a beard that was more scruff than anything styled, and eyes that looked tired but kind. He was maybe in his mid-30s, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt, exactly what you'd expect and somehow more than that at the same time. We stood there for a moment, just looking at each other, and I realized I had no idea what to say. "Hey, thanks for honking at me for 3 months? Nice truck?" But he spoke first, his voice deep and a little rough, like he didn't use it much. "I wasn't sure you'd come down," he said. "I almost kept driving." His accent was southern, not thick but definitely there, softening the edges of his words. "I wasn't sure you'd stop," I replied, and my voice came out higher than usual. "I thought maybe you'd forgotten about me. You were gone for 2 weeks. He looked down, scuffing his boot against the asphalt. "Truck broke down in Tennessee. Took longer to fix than expected. I thought about you every night, wondered if you were still out there waiting." The way he said it, so simple and honest, made something in my chest tighten. "I'm Elijah, by the way. Eli." "Marcus," I said, and we shook hands, this formal gesture that felt absurd given the circumstances but also somehow necessary. His hand was warm and calloused, and he held mine just a fraction longer than a normal handshake. "Do you want to come up? I have coffee. It's terrible, but it's hot." He smiled for the first time, and it transformed his whole face. I'd like that. I've got about an hour before I need to get back on the road. My apartment suddenly felt very small with him in it. He moved carefully, like he was aware of his size, of the space he took up. I made coffee while he stood by the balcony door, looking out at the highway he'd just left. "Nice view," he said. "I always wondered what it looked like from up here." "It's better with company," I said, handing him a mug. Our fingers touched briefly, and there was that flutter again, stronger this time. We sat on the balcony in the 2 cheap chairs I'd bought from a garage sale, and for a while, we just drank coffee and watched the traffic. It should have been awkward, but it wasn't. It felt like continuing a conversation we'd been having for months, just with words now instead of honks and waves. "Why did you start honking?" I asked finally. "That first time, I mean." Eli was quiet for a moment, turning his mug in his hands. "I saw you out here, middle of the night, and you looked so alone. I've been doing this route for 5 years, and I know what alone looks like. I know what it feels like. I just wanted you to know someone saw you, I guess, that you weren't invisible." He glanced at me. "Then you waved back, and it became the best part of my night. My whole day, really. I'd planned my driving schedule around making sure I'd be here at 3. It probably sounds crazy." "It doesn't," I said quietly. "It sounds like the sanest thing I've heard in a long time." We talked until the sky started to lighten, that deep blue that comes before dawn. He told me about life on the road, the loneliness of it, but also the freedom. How he'd started driving after a bad divorce, needed to get away from everything he knew, and just kept going. How he'd been doing it so long he wasn't sure he knew how to stop. I told him about my own stuckness, my own inability to move forward or backward, just existing in this perpetual present. He understood. He didn't try to fix it or offer advice. He just understood. When he said he had to go, we both stood there awkwardly by his truck. "Can I come back?" he asked. "I mean, I'll be by here again in 3 days, same time. But can I stop? Can we do this again?" "Yes," I said, and it came out more forceful than I intended. "Please, yes." He smiled that smile again, and then he did something that made my breath catch. He reached out and tucked a strand of my hair behind my ear, his fingertips barely grazing my cheek. "I'll honk twice when I get to the highway," he said, "so you know I'm thinking about you." I watched him drive away, and true to his word, when he reached the highway, 2 honks echoed back to me. I stood there until I couldn't see his taillights anymore, feeling like something fundamental had shifted in my universe. 3 days later, he came back, and 3 days after that. And again, and again. Our 3 a.m. meetings became the center of my life, the thing I oriented everything else around. We'd sit on my balcony, sometimes talking, sometimes just being quiet together. He'd tell me about the places he'd been, the things he'd seen from his cab. I'd tell him about my day, the mundane details that somehow felt significant when I was sharing them with him. Slowly, carefully, we built something real out of those stolen hours. It was about 6 weeks of these visits before anything physical happened beyond that one touch. We were sitting closer than usual, and I'd just finished telling him some story about work, and when I looked over, he was watching me with this expression I couldn't quite read. "What?" I asked. "You're beautiful," he said simply. "I've been wanting to say that for a while now." Nobody had called me beautiful in a long time. Cute, maybe. Nice looking. But beautiful, said like that, like it was just a fact he was observing, made me feel seen in a way I'd never experienced. "Eli," I started, but I didn't know how to finish the sentence. He leaned in slowly, giving me plenty of time to pull away, and kissed me. It was gentle at first, tentative, his beard rough against my skin. But then I kissed him back, and it deepened into something that made me forget about the highway, the night, everything except the feeling of his mouth on mine, his hand cradling the back of my head. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "I've been wanting to do that since the first time I saw your face," he admitted. "You should have done it sooner," I said, and pulled him back in. That night, he didn't leave when dawn came. He called in, said he needed a personal day, and we moved inside to my bed. Being with him was different from anyone I'd been with before. There was this tenderness to it, this sense that we were both handling something precious. Afterward, we lay tangled together, and he traced patterns on my shoulder with his fingertips. I don't know how to do this, he said quietly. I'm on the road all the time. I don't have a home anywhere except my truck. I can't give you normal. I don't want normal, I told him. I want this, whatever this is. We figured it out as we went. He'd rearrange his schedule when he could, stay for a few hours or sometimes a whole day. I started going with him sometimes on shorter runs, riding in the passenger seat of his truck, watching the world blur by. He showed me how to read the road, how to anticipate traffic patterns, how to find the good truck stops that served actual food instead of mystery meat. I showed him how to be still, how to exist in one place without feeling trapped. We were teaching each other how to live, I think. My apartment started to accumulate pieces of him, a jacket hung by the door, a toothbrush in the bathroom, little things that said he belonged there, that this was becoming his home too. Rachel met him finally, about 4 months in, and she pulled me aside afterward and said, "Okay, I take back every joke I made about the truck driver. That man looks at you like you hung the moon." I think I might love him, I confessed, saying it out loud for the first time. "Honey," she said, "you've loved him since the first time he honked." I told him on a random Tuesday, no big production, just the two of us on the balcony at 3 a.m, like always. "I love you," I said, and the words felt both terrifying and inevitable. "I know it's complicated, and I know we're figuring this out as we go, but I love you." He was quiet for so long I started to panic, but then he turned to me with tears in his eyes. "I love you too," he said. "I've been carrying that around for months, not knowing if I had the right to say it. I love you, Marcus." We're still figuring it out. He's looking into regional routes that would keep him closer to home, to me. I'm looking at remote work options that would let me travel with him more. It's not perfect and it's not easy, but it's ours. Every time he leaves, he still honks twice when he passes my road, and I still wave from the balcony. But now I know he'll be back. Now I know that those two honks mean I love you, and my wave means I love you too. Last week he asked me if I'd ever thought about moving. Not away from him, but with him. Getting a small place near one of his main routes, somewhere we could actually build a life together. I said yes before he'd even finished asking, because that's what love is, I think. It's saying yes to the unknown. It's taking a chance on two honks in the darkness and seeing where they lead you. Tonight, he's parked downstairs, and instead of just an hour, he has 3 whole days off. We're going to sleep in, make breakfast together, do all the normal things that couples do. And tonight, at 3 a.m., we're going to sit on the balcony together and watch his truck route go by without him. And that feels like the biggest victory of all. He's choosing to be still with me. I'm choosing to move with him. We're meeting in the middle, finding our own rhythm. Sometimes I think about that first night, sitting alone on my balcony, feeling invisible and stuck. I think about how close I came to missing this, to not waving back, to dismissing those honks as just noise. I think about how love finds you in the strangest places, in the most unexpected ways. How sometimes the person who saves you is someone you never see coming, driving past your life at 70 miles an hour until suddenly they stop. Eli's calling me from inside, saying he's making eggs and they're probably going to be terrible, and I can hear the smile in his voice. I take one more look at the highway, at all those anonymous lights moving through the darkness, and I send them a silent wish that they find what I found, that they find someone who sees them, who stops for them, who honks twice just to say you matter. Then I go inside, to the man who taught me that sometimes the best love stories start with the smallest gestures. 2 honks, 1 wave, and the courage to see where it leads.